Now we are going to invite UST, UST Global, yes, right. And again, another global firm. So one of the fun parts of, working with the partners is they all bring different perspectives. We might think that the market needs fewer, but actually sometimes they need companies with onshore, offshore, nearshore capability with expertise. Sometimes they are looking for a local language, kind of a boutique. So UST Global is one of our partners where we are glad to say that we're working with them in multiple continents. In fact, the last time the two of us met was in Aliso Viejo, in California. So, well, thanks for traveling all this way to London to be part of DataFest, and thanks for sponsoring Denodo. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Suresh, for having me over here. I'm very excited to be here, and that's one of the reasons why I traveled all the way, because I missed the one in New York and I wanted to be here. Yeah. I'm Sripati Jagannathan, and I head the Data Engineering and Services division at UST Global. Yeah. As part of Data Engineering and Services, we provide engineering services for big data and data, setting up of data architectures, designing data architectures, and providing our clients with a data strategy. Right. As well as also we have our own products and platforms which we have kind of started developing, because we want to be able to accelerate the time to value that our clients can get. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why we actually have partnered with Denodo as well, because we see that as a data virtualization as a critical component of an organization's data strategy.
Yeah, before we go into the product strategy, I want to pick up on the idea of data engineering as a practice and a focus. In the market today, we see so much conversation about data science, AI, ML, etc. But as has often been pointed out, those professionals are very valuable, but they can't do their job if they don't have access to the data that they need, or they end up spending an enormous amount of time chasing the data instead of doing the analytics.
Exactly.
So the concept of a data engineering team and a practice is very interesting. So how does that interface within UST Global in feeding some of the other, advanced analytics or digital applications business?
Great question, because that was one of the things that we recognized right at the outset. So we realized that what was happening was organizations were beginning to focus exclusively on data, because data was the new oil and data was gold. And what was happening was data analysts, they were spending 80% of their time or more on what was data engineering. Yeah. Because in the old world, it was very easy to import it into Excel and do your data analysis over there. And that was the data engineering that you did, import into Excel or have an Access database or something
massage
like that.
It or yeah.
So you did whatever you wanted to do in that media on that tool. But in the new world, with the volume of data increasing, you needed to look at it from in a more holistic fashion, if you will. So we look at it as three separate practices. Within data services itself, we have got what we call data management, which is really very consulting oriented, which looks at a company's strategic imperatives, translates that into business objectives, and then lays out the roadmap on which they need to develop. Because if they need to engineer the insights that they want to gain, they need to actually have the right kind of platform and the right kind of architecture in place. Yeah. And that's where the data engineering practices actually follows. So you have the data management piece, which is the consulting piece, and then we bring in the engineering practice, which is setting up of that environment, so that the advanced analytics and the machine learning and the data scientists can actually leverage their algorithms and their data science techniques, rather than figure out how do I source data, where do I get the data from, and how do I make it available to users.
Fantastic.
So that's the...
So now you've talked to me about two layers. So you've got the consultancy, well, I should say it's the strategic layer, the consultancy, and then the data engineering. Now let's talk about your products, which are what you call the accelerators to the value. So can you explain what UST Global is doing?
They accelerate time to value, because one of the big problems that we repeatedly saw was organizations had invested, especially those who had drunk the Hadoop Kool-Aid, so to speak, 5 years ago. They had invested a lot in these big data lakes, and they had actually started to kind of ingest large volumes of data into the lake. And that was a problem that they solved fairly easily. But what they had not solved was, how do you kind of leverage that data and kind of convert that into value, into the insights that will that will power your business.
Correct. And so, yeah, you can pour a lot of money into the storage, the acquisition, the ingestion, but you don't get anything until you use it. So how then does the products from UST Global and Denodo come together in solving that?
So what we initially started off with was Cubes, which was basically an Apache Keylene clone. So what we tried to do was create an OLAP for the Hadoop ecosystem.
Okay.
But very soon our clients who were not on Hadoop, who were bypassing the Hadoop journey, they started coming to us and saying, I've got my data in Azure Data Lake Storage, or I've got my data in Cosmos DB. Now, can you kind of use Cubes? Can we build these Cubes on Cosmos DB? Because we are not able to do that with the other tools that we have got. So that kind of powered us to start drove us to create connectors for Cosmos DB and other kinds of databases.
Right.
When we saw that, we kind of realized suddenly that we are these partners with Denodo, and Denodo solves that problem pretty much.
So you put that as a middle layer,
exactly,
and then the cubes are built on top of Denodo.
So Denodo becomes a source for those cubes, and Denodo can connect to any data source, provides you a SQL view, which works very well with cubes, and then you are able to create as a separate MOLAP cubes, which are physical cubes, so you get the performance on, say, trillions of records.
You have dimensionalized it and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's and we often get this question, of can I still expose the data? Everyone knows you can access this, but having the ability to have cubes on top is great.
Right.
Well, once again, I want to thank you for being here, but before we go, we're working on several projects together. Is there a particular customer or use case you like to highlight? Where which is kind of top of mind for you right now?
Yeah, several use cases, right? And one of these use cases that we talk about is we are using Denodo exactly as you actually market it. So we kind of look at it as a tool that allows you to leverage value from where it lies, rather than actually create value by forcing it into a data lake or something like that.
Right.
So we do that for several customers. We have done that for banks in Asia. We have done that for banks in the US, and we have done it for healthcare clients in the US that we work with jointly. So there are several places where we do it. We even do it for a retail pharmacy here in the UK. So so there are places where we work with Denodo, and we do it from that point of view, which is virtualize it, make sure that data in disparate sources is available so that you can actually leverage it where it lies, rather than kind of try and move it and transform it into a form that you can use.
Well, we hope to do more of that with you and continue to grow both your business and our business. So thank you for being a partner again, and thank you for being at DataFest and sponsoring that.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure to speak to you. Thank you.